How's it going out there? We're going live again. I think everything is broadcasting. So here we are. I'm Ryan, Triathlon.com, and I'm going to go over the Ironman 70.3 Oregon bike course. Again, to set this up front, I'm not planning on doing it for 2021. Maybe in the future, I'd love to go out there and do it. It seems like a really cool race to do. But I just want to go over since I'm running a group and helping with any kind of questions or any training or anything like that. Plans together, got some athletes doing it and that type of thing. Just want to kind of go over my thoughts on the bike course and just in general, looking at the maps online, looking at the elevation profiles, and kind of what I think of the course overall. And if you notice me look out of the side of my eye here once in a while, I'm checking my program, make sure everything's running. And also, I'll repost this on YouTube. So if you see it on there, you can comment and all that kind of fun stuff too. So let's jump right into it. 70.3 Oregon, July 25th, 2021. It is right around the corner to making this video. We're about 10 days out. So hopefully you are ready for this. So let's hit the main site. You can see here in the background, 70.3 Oregon, their main page. I went to the courses. I went to the bike course, and there you have it. And it's nice. They've got the two pages on there. They've got the actual map, and then they got turn-by-turn directions, and then the elevation profile. So I will warn you, more often than not, these turn-by-turn directions, people start going through them and they're like, all right, this doesn't work, whatever. I'd highly recommend just at least checking the map. So if you go and you want to drive the course or anything like that, bring the map with you. That way you know where you're going, and it kind of makes sense. If you go by turn-by-turn directions, sometimes they're off, and if they change anything, usually they may not update this as well. And also, the elevation profile sometimes isn't exactly. People go out and ride the course and they report the elevation's totally off. So it just depends on what device and how they're capturing all that kind of good stuff. But in general, excuse me, it's going to be hopefully pretty close. So they notice it's a river swim. I've already done talk about the swim. The bike is relatively flat. The run is flat. Now, I won't say flat per se. It looks like there's a few steep little climbs, punchy climbs in there. But 1,100 feet over 56 miles, that's not too bad. So I don't think you'll be too far off. Caught off guard, especially if you're more in a flat area and you're training for this race. So just looking at the course, it is an out and back, which is kind of nice. At least coming back, you kind of know what to expect. Hopefully, coming back is better than going out. I always hate to incur more damage, and sometimes it feels that way, that it's kind of more difficult going out than coming back. Coming back is the hard way in. But notice, I mean, it doesn't look too drastically different. That little to the turnaround, it's a nice little climb, and then you get a nice little braking to get to turn around and come back. But there are a few, like I said, kind of a punchy looking climbs. So that is going to be, I think, the biggest tips is make sure that you're training for those steep climbs where you're probably going to have to jump out of the seat and press on the gears a little bit. Now, everybody always asks the questions like, oh, should I bring a road bike or a tri bike or whatever because of the climbing? If you've been doing your training on a tri bike, and I highly recommend, over 56 miles of tri bike is going to get you a lot more efficiency than doing a road bike and bringing it out because you're worried about the climbing. I just did a race, one loop, or I think if the Olympic course was about like 3,500 feet of elevation gain, and on everybody's on their tri bikes and they're getting 20-mile-per-hour splits. So as long as the gearing's not super crazy where you're just set up for flat on your tri bike and the gearing in the cassette, bring in your tri bike. I highly recommend, if you got one, bring it and just ride it, and that's what I recommend for sure. So notice the average air temperature, they say, is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I know right now it's probably a little bit warmer these days, so I definitely prepare, have sunscreen with you. So when you get out of transition, you can have sunscreen. Usually they're having it at the races. Usually right now under pandemic protocols, you have to apply it yourself. Volunteers can't necessarily apply it for you. Make sure there's a recall for Neutrogena and Aveeno spray-on sunscreen for carcinogenic properties or something like that. So be careful with your sunscreens. Make sure you're checking that your sunscreen hasn't been recalled or anything, because you don't want to deal with that on race day. So, kind of digging into it, it's great to look at the map, kind of see where you're going. I like the nice out and back, temperature wise in the 80 degrees. So it's probably going to get fairly warm. I always use a full sleeve tri suit, so that way I don't have to worry about too much besides my back and neck. and my forearms. Usually for a half, I don't do anything sunscreen wise on my arms. I'm just not worried about it. But definitely bring your tri bike. You know, you could bring, some people ask about discs. I always ride, I've got 808s, zip 808s that I run front and back, and that's why I always ride. If you got that, bring it. You know, I don't think it's really going to be all that windy. I want to do a separate thing, just kind of looking at the weather and just kind of what to expect as far as weather goes and kind of historical weather. But, for the most part, I wouldn't necessarily be worried about, crosswinds or anything like that. So if you got discs, bring them. If you got deep dish wheels, bring them. Tri bikes, bring them. Just like I said, be prepared because there's a few punchy little climbs. It's not going to be your rolling hills. Maybe you're looking at like an Ironman Chattanooga or something like that. But there's going to be sections where you're probably going to have to hop out of the seat and do some climbing. So just be prepared for that. Hopefully you've done your force reps, your strength, bike rides, doing some hills and some hill repeats and that type of thing to be ready for it. Now, what I do like, and maybe this is going to help you 10 days out from race day, but if you're looking at this later and you're looking at this race for 2022, I always like to go back and I'd like to verify. You go to Map My Ride, you go to Strava, you can do other things and check this elevation gain. So I like to go to Garmin Connect. And this way it gives me options to download a course so I can ride it on my trainer. So I kind of looked around the area to see if anybody had ridden the course and put it on Garmin. And right now I can't, nobody's ridden it and made it public. So that's kind of, it was a dead end. But if you got a Ruby account, this is why I like Ruby, because you can go in, people can upload a course and you can ride it and it'll control your trainer. So you just go in, I did a search, I found 3 different courses that three different people have uploaded. I do kind of like these 2 because they've been kind of independently verified by 2 different people. 56.14 miles, 1% grade, 1505.91 for elevation. So they're looking pretty similar. This one, the elevation is a little bit different, so it might be a little off. It just depends on your device, what you rode it with, if your altimeter's not jacked up or anything like that. So you just got to be careful. But clicking on one of them, I just made it my favorites. So that way, if I go to my dashboard, hopefully I'm not showing anything too, top secret or anything. But, if you go to your dashboard, I add it to my favorite routes. So that way, when I go into the Ruby program, I can ride it. I just pick it for my favorites and I can ride the course on my trainer, and it controls my Ceres H2 trainer, smart trainer. So this is nice. So I can do it that way if I want to run through Ruby, or you can also go and export it to GPX and then import it into Garmin. And then I've done videos on this. You export the GPX file, you import it into Garmin as a course, and you export it to your device that controls either your Phoenix 6 will control your trainer, or an Edge device that will control your trainer, and you upload it as a course, and then you ride that course and will control your trainer, and it'll give you this wonderful, grade of 11% and all this kind of stuff. So you could go ride this and go suffer on that on your trainer. So that's what I like to do with these. I like to go through and then download them, so then you can ride them on your trainer and experience them. Here in the Midwest, in the winter, you can't really ride outside all that much. But if you're in a situation where you can ride outside, maybe it's not as important. But if you live in a flat area like Florida and you're training for a race like this gives you an opportunity to put it on your trainer and ride it like you would. So, there's options with Ruby. I said there's options with Garmin, but no, I didn't see it in there. Usually somebody's ridden it and put it in by now. But so overall, there's not much to say about the course other than, like I said, there's going to be a few punchy climbs. So if you're ready for that, get ready for that. I'd recommend bring your time trial bike, your triathlon bike, Aero wheels if you got them, race wheels, bring it all. Aero helmets. Just be prepared for sun and get kind of warm on the bike. Other than that, there's really, bring sunglasses to make sure you have that. Just make sure you're up to speed on your hydration. Make sure that you're staying hydrated for your bike. You have a good hydration plan, because if it gets to 80 degrees on race day, again, I'll do a little thing where I'm looking at the weather. So if it's getting kind of warm, bike ride is where your hydration plan, your nutrition plan really comes into play, because it sets you up for the run. Because once you get on the run, there's no way you're going to catch up. The only time to really stay even is on the bike, and to be as neutral as possible when you get off the bike and start the run. So that being said, when you come in that tail end, you're going to have a few little punchy climbs, and then some nice downhills, and then one little punchy climb right before you come back into transition. So that's going to be key. You're going to have to save some for the end of the bike ride. You can't just go out there and hammer it and then come back and be like, oh yeah, and then you get to mile 45 and you still got some climbs left and some work to do. So don't waste yourself in the first 3/4 of that ride, because the last quarter is going to be significant as well. So just make sure you're paying attention to that. So again, I've done a video on the athlete guide. This is in the athlete guide. I highly recommend printing those pages so you have them, so you look back on it. That way you can have this on your map. You can go and drive it if you want. You can do turn-by-turn directions. Like I said, sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're not. You can go to Garmin Connect and try to find the course, which I didn't see one on there. You can go to Ruby, search up the course, and luckily a couple people have put them on there on Ruby, so you can click on it and put it to your favorites if you got a Ruby account, or you can download the GPX. So just several different options on there, so you can download that course and ride it. Even 10 days out, you could section it up and ride it in different days, and ride 1/4 of it or 1/3 of it one day, a third another, and nothing too crazy or anything like that. But overall, like I said, it's looking like it's going to be not a cakewalk. I think there's a few climbs in there that are going to be interesting, but I think very doable. I think it'll be a quicker course, because those punchy little climbs, it goes from 150 to 300, so 150 feet of gain over a little bitty climb. So in a short amount of distance, you're going to go really far. So like I said, you stand out of your seat for a minute and you get out there and you're good to go. But you got a little bit of a slow grade coming up to this point to the turnaround, and then you got a nice ride back into these little short climbs. So like I said, don't waste it all up front. I think you'll need it kind of towards the end to get through these last little parts. And when you roll into transition, you should be no more than 2 or 3% dehydrated body weight wise. And like I said, so I think sunscreen will be important, because if it does get warm, you just make sure you're on top of the hydration and nutrition. So that's kind of my thoughts going over the 2021 bike course. So if you got any questions, put them in. I didn't see any questions come across while I was doing the live here on Facebook. If you're seeing this on YouTube, put comments on there if you think I missed anything, or think things should be added, or if you got any questions or you want my advice on something, always put the questions there and I'll answer those if you got them. Other than that, we'll hit the run course, and we'll talk about weather and get you guys across the finish line on race day. Happy training and good luck on race day. We'll talk to you.